It is Wednesday here on the Desmond Johnson Show. We are live across all major platforms. You can catch us on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel. Got a loaded show for you today for your lunch break. Matt Alquiza from Sports Illustrated will be joining us here to talk about the Charlotte Hornets. Ryan Stone's coming through in just a bit with his best bets, college football playoffs, Wildcard weekend. We got you hooked up. We're going to get you set and ready to go. It's the Desmond Johnson Show. Let's go ahead and roll that intro.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed whacked. I'm going harder than a martyr on the starter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's 4th and inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. Special programming announcement. Apparently, we have a winter storm heading our way. If you live here in the Carolinas, normally we have a Friday show. I typically tape it on Thursdays. Because of the snowstorm coming in, it's pushed my schedule kind of inward into the week. So high school stuff got pushed into Thursday, so I can't pre-tape. So we won't have a Friday show. We're going to try to give you a lot of that information today while we're on the air live. On the air. You can participate in the show if you're listening live or if you're watching live on X or if you're on our YouTube channel or Facebook. You can type in the comments there, ask a question to Matt, ask a question to Ryan when he's on for Best Bets a little bit later on today, and we'll try to get you on the air. Joining me right now to start off the show, Matt Alquiza from Sports Illustrated joining me here, beat writer for the Charlotte Hornets. What's going on, Matt? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. Just busy. Cold. It's still cold outside. But good nonetheless. I realized I hadn't had a chance with all the football going on and our focus on high school sports here on Tobacco Road and the ACC and everything else going. Hadn't really had a chance to really talk Hornets since really probably the first month of the season when I had Sam Farber on. And I wanted to check in on my guys and realized that they were in the middle of a 10-game losing streak. Hadn't won since December 8th. It just was bad. But they started getting some players back. LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller both came back to the lineup a couple of games ago, if I'm not mistaken. And they actually won last night, beating Phoenix at home. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and those guys, they won 115-104 Tuesday night and snapped that 10-game losing streak. I wanted to play a little true-false with you so I can get, for those that are getting caught up, because a lot of times what happens, it feels like people don't pay attention to the NBA really, like the casual fans, till after Christmas. And now it's kind of like when people are going to start to, like, hey, what's going on here? What's going on there? So, like, if you're shocked that the Cleveland Cavaliers are the top team in the NBA right now at 31-4, join the club. Between them, Oklahoma City was good last year, and Cleveland was pretty good last year too, but not this is like record-setting, like good, like the pace they're in right now. So we'll get to them in just a bit. But I wanted to talk. I saw an article on Hornets on SI, and you guys should go follow that if you want the latest from Matt, Skylar Callahan, and the crew over there. That someone had posted a trade scenario with the Hornets and the Lakers, with the Lakers basically bringing LaMelo Ball to LA and just a bunch of pieces going to Charlotte. Give me your, maybe not even true false, give me your vibe of this team. Are they sellers? Are they buyers? Like, they're just is it just a case of bad luck with injury? Like, they basically have like the third worst record in the league right now. It feels like they're treading water a little bit, just trying to figure out what they are. Give me your just initial analysis of where the team is, state of the franchise right now with the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, so it's a complicated question. I think in the lens of the trade deadline, they are absolutely sellers, but it's not going to be the top end guys. They're not moving off of LaMelo Ball at the deadline. They're definitely not moving away from Brandon Miller. Mark Williams has come back in the last few weeks. He's been great. He's not getting moved. They'll be sellers in more of the ancillary pieces on the team. I would be surprised that if in a month and a half from now we're still watching Vasa Micic in a Hornets uniform. We're still watching Nick Richards in a Hornets uniform. Cody Martin, Josh Green, those guys that were brought in to be or have been around for a long time. as the like surrounding cast for the group of stars that Charlotte has. I think that's where the roster really needs a revamp. Charles Lee has, the vision of shooting a lot of threes, playing solid defense, a lot of connective ball handlers, passers, shooters on the roster, and the guys beneath the Charlotte Stars, Brandon Miller, LaMelo Ball, Mark Williams, that's the core. The guys below them in the pecking order can't do those things that Charles Lee wants them to do at a high level. So Charlotte will be sellers at the trade deadline, but it will be a lot smaller moves, not the guys at the top that will be moved here in the next couple of weeks.
So that was kind of one of my true false questions in terms of Charlotte, their quote unquote core four, LaMelo Ball, Mark Williams, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges. Do you feel like those four will still be together at the end of the season? True or false?
True end of the season. I think if one of them were to be moved, it would be Miles Bridges. His timeline is a little bit more accelerated than the three younger guys. I think Bridges is 27 or 28 at this point. And then, Ball, Williams, Miller, they're all 22, 23. So Bridges' timeline is a little bit accelerated. He's a bit of an awkward fit with LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller because Bridges is at his best when he's handling the ball and kind of initiating offense. And when LaMelo Ball's on the floor, like he's going to be the one doing that 99% of the time. And he's the guy you want doing that 99% of the time. So Bridges was just signed to the extension. They obviously value him on some level because the new front office are the ones that signed him to that extension this summer. So I think any movement when it comes to Miles Bridges will happen over the summer when his contract gets a little bit cheaper and some other teams around the league open up some cap space. So to end the season, true, they'll be together, but I would be somewhat surprised if Miles Bridges is still on the roster to start 2026 or sorry, to start 2020 at the end of 2026.
I was looking at the standings. Is it too late for the Hornets to make a push to do anything? They're 8-27. They're literally 9 games behind the 10 seed Chicago Bulls in the Eastern Conference. And I'm just kind of looking through the East. The East actually looks a little bit stronger this year than the West. When you look at the top of it with Cleveland, the defending champ Boston Celtics, the Knicks are in third, Orlando in fourth, and then Milwaukee and Miami. Miami's going through it right now with the Jimmy Butler situation. Then you get this group of Hawks, Pacers, Pistons, Bulls are all kind of the same. And then that lower tier of Philly, Brooklyn, and then you get Charlotte, Toronto, Washington. Washington, the only team in the league that has less wins than the Charlotte Hornets. You mentioned it before that there'll be sellers at the trade deadline. Do you think that there's anything on this roster besides that core four that would be intriguing to other teams like contenders at the top of the league that might be useful to them? Or is this a situation where they're just trading away parts for like second round picks and kind of just doing the same old thing that they've been doing before?
Yeah, it feels more of the same old thing. When I look at the Western Conference, it feels like all of the great teams in the West have a big man that is, daunting that you're going to have to face to, run the gauntlet of the West. So I think Nick Richards will be of value to some teams in the Western Conference as just a depth big man, 7'4" you can bring up the bench. He will give you solid but unspectacular play on both sides of the ball. So they would probably move him for a handful of second-round picks. Same with Vasilije Micic. I think Minnesota specifically is in desperate need of some ball handling help in their backcourt. So Micic is more of he's only in his second year in the league, but he's a veteran option, having played so long in Europe. So those two guys, Cody Martin, maybe he'll have a Caleb Martin kind of renaissance, like, he had with the Heat a couple of years ago on their run to the finals. So those are the three guys I think are most likely to be moved, but it's not going to be for any sort of massive trade haul, first round picks coming back to Charlotte. It would just be to move some salary around, free up some money in the future for the Hornets, get some second round picks to add to the treasure chest they already have full of them.
It's frustrating as a Panther fan. It's frustrating as a Panther fan. It's frustrating as a Hornets fan to watch this because it's like you kind of go into the season with high expectations. You're like, okay, we're finally got everybody together. We've kind of in our minds had an idea of what this is going to look like. And I think that core four has only played together like 3 games or something like that. Or 4 games so far this season. And that's the frustrating part of it, not being able to see if the actual general idea is going to actually work with them out there. Right. Let's just be real here, Matt. Are the Hornets tanking for Cooper Flagg? Is that what's really going on here? Because I see sometimes where LaMelo has been on the injury report with like an ankle injury, but his ankle surgery was like almost 2 years ago, or he'll be on for a wrist, and his wrist was injured like a couple of years, but like they've just been kind of using it to kind of maybe not play him a little bit. Brandon Miller, I've noticed a little bit too. They've held him back a little bit, maybe more than they would have been if they say we're contending. are they tanking for Cooper Flag? Because I'm looking at the college basketball landscape and who's out there, and I'm like, you know who would really fit in this Hornet lineup right now? Cooper Flag. Like Cooper Flag would just go like right into that lineup, and that core four we're talking about, you put Cooper Flag at the 4, you move Miles to 3. There you go. There's your starting 5 for the next 10 years. Like, is that what they're doing? Like, do you think deep down that it's kind of like one of those, we're doing it, but we're not going to say it out loud? Like, this is what's happening. We see what we want. We're going to try to angle for it. Are they trying to get Cooper Flag?
I don't like the word tanking. I don't like the word tanking, but I think that the Hornets have been overly cautious in a lot of different scenarios with their star players in the past couple of weeks. And I mean, it makes sense. If they're 17-14 at this point, and they're the 6th seed, and they're fighting for to escape the play-in. I feel like LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller would have come back a couple of games before they did, right?
Yeah,
they were questionable, doubtful, with soreness for a long time. Really, if you look back at the summer, Jeff Peterson, the GM of the Hornets, and Charles Lee, everything they said is really pointing to this year being a building year. Charlotte owes the Spurs a lottery protected first round pick. If you go back and listen to them talk, it feels like the plan this year was to make sure that Charlotte does not send that pick to San Antonio, which means they had to miss the playoffs. So if you're going to miss the playoffs, what's the difference of being the 14th pick and the first pick? You want the first round pick, right? I mean, it's a massive difference.
Yeah.
So you might as well go 15-67 instead of going 30-42. If you're going to miss the playoffs, you might as well miss the playoffs. So
bottom out. Just go ahead.
Yeah, you want to be you want to be at the bottom
without losing your players. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And here's the thing. So I do believe in Panthers for Jonathan Stewart and Skylar Callahan. And one of the things that Stu is always telling us is that professional athletes don't tank. Like, they don't tank. Yeah. They can't afford to tank. They have tape on themselves. They have families. You can't tell a professional athlete, hey, we want you to stink it up because there's this kid over at Duke that we want to get next year that's going to be really, really good, and we want to bring him in and save the franchise. It's like, hey, you're telling me I suck, that you want me to just suck even more so that
you're going to replace me with somebody.
But see, the difference is, with the way he describes it, the NFL is a 53-man roster. Like, you can't just bring in one guy and it just turns around the whole franchise. In the NBA, you can't. Like, in the NBA, you literally can bring in a Zion Williamson or a whoever, and it changes. Well, maybe not this year, but it changes the fortunes of that 12-man or 14-man roster in the NBA. And we've seen teams kind of go that route of just not tanking, but not trying their hardest to win. Maybe it's the best way to put it. Saving their stars, putting them on injury, like on IR or whatever, or hold them a little bit longer, or whatever the case may be. Weird combinations in the lineup. And I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, you know what? This year, the way it's been so far, you're absolutely right. Winning 30 games at this point is not going to really help the Hornets. Cooper Flag next year in a uniform would. So I'm kind of looking at that and thinking, all right, let's see what happens with that. Before I let you go, though, buy or sell, the Cleveland Cavaliers are the best team in the league.
I'm going to sell that because I'm a big believer, and I came on every time I talked to you last year, I would tell you that the Nuggets were the best team in the league until they got knocked off. I mean, I'm picking the Celtics to win the championship over anybody right now, even though they don't have the regular season record that Cleveland does. Boston is the top dog until they get knocked off in the playoffs. So Boston's the best team in the league right now, although Cleveland is a monster in the Midwest. They're playing really, really good basketball.
Yeah, on a 10-game winning streak. They are playing the 1 seed in the Western Conference tonight, the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're on a 15-game win streak. It's the first time ever a 15-game win streak and a 10-game win streak will meet each other in a regular season matchup. The Thunder are 30-5. The Cavs are 31-4. So and it's crazy when I look at the standings and I'm seeing the team like the Cavs. The Knicks were good last year. The Magic had a run early in the year last year in the Eastern Conference, but in the West, the Houston Rockets are the 2 seed right now. The Memphis Grizzlies are playing well. Denver's in the 4. Dallas is in the 5, even though I just saw that Kyrie Irving's going to be out a little bit with I think a back contusion or something. So he's going to miss a few games. The Lakers are in 6. But I'm seeing these young teams. I wasn't aware that the Houston Rockets were actually good that quickly. And that's what hurts as a Hornets fan, because we see that. We see the Rockets, like they were at the bottom of the league like last year or whatever. And you go into the standings now, and they're 24-12. And you're just like, why can't the Hornets ever just get them all on the court at the same time and just get a little 7-game win streak going just to push yourself out a little bit and just go. So I don't know. It looks like they're going to keep plugging away here, especially now they have all their players back on the floor. The Hornets are about to start a 5-game West Coast swing against the LA Lakers tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. And you can actually hear that game through Tobacco Road Sports Radio here in the Triad. If you live in Guilford County, you can hear it on WWBG 1470 AM. I believe it's a 10 o'clock tip, but you should be able to hear it through the 10:30 tip, 10 o'clock pregame show with Sam Farber from the Hornets Radio Network. You can hear that exclusively through Tobacco Road Sports Radio in the Triad. All Hornets games, you can hear those here via WWBG. Appreciate you coming through, Matt. We'll bring you back in a little bit later on. I was going to ask you about the All-Star game, but I was like, nah, because I'm sitting there looking at the format. I'm like, I don't think this is going to work. Whatever they're trying to do with this, like, it's not going to work. Because I was going to ask, is LaMelo going to be an All-Star? And then I was like, what does that mean anymore? Like, what does it mean to be an All-Star? Because the way they're doing it, like, does it even carry weight to be an All-Star? Like, to go to whatever this thing is they're doing with the they're going to split them into like 3 teams or something. One of them's gonna be like the young all stars.
The Rising Stars team will be the 4th, and it'll be like a 4-team tournament.
Maybe Brandon Miller might make that Rising Stars team. I would think. I would think he'd be a good candidate for that. And LaMelo, I think LaMelo's gonna probably be an All-Star. Last I checked, I think he's 3rd in voting for guards in the Eastern Conference. So it looks like he may get in there. It'll be his 2nd All-Star appearance. So. We got a little something to root for there, but I get Matt out here. Got Ryan in the back, getting ready for best bets with Ryan Stone. Appreciate you coming through, Matt. Everybody check out his work, and you can find him on X at Alquiza8, and you can follow Hornets on SI there as well for all the latest on the Hornets and NBA news. Appreciate you, bud.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
So there he goes. That's Matt Alquiza, and we're gonna bring in. Chilling in his recliner, Ryan Stone.
just taking a break.
just hanging out, just doing his thing, man. What's going on? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How about you?
Busy. Everything's getting moved around because of this weather or whatever it's supposed to come in on Friday. It looks like we may actually get an actual winter storm, which we have not had here in I can't even remember, maybe 2021. It's been a couple of years since we got one. Yeah. So, but no way to get you more warmed up than to have some money in your pocket. So we had to bring in Ryan Stone for best bets. If you missed it earlier in the show, there will not be a Friday show because of the schedules getting moved around. I usually pre-tape Friday on Thursday night. I will be doing high school basketball Thursday night instead. So we're going to cram some of this in right here. I'm going to put Ryan on the spot a little bit because I told him college football playoffs, but I'm hoping he's got some wild card picks as well that'll help us carry through into the weekend. So I know he's able to pivot. So we'll be able to do all that. But we're going to start off with college football, the college football playoffs. Before you give us your best bets, which one of these 2 games intrigues you the most between Penn State and Notre Dame and Texas and Ohio State?
It's definitely tomorrow night's game with Penn State and Notre Dame. Ohio State's the clear favorite in that one. Penn State and Notre Dame's it's a pretty even matchup to me on paper in terms of 2 teams that are built kind of similar. I think Notre Dame is probably slightly better on defense. I think they're definitely better on special teams. However, like the offensive weapons for Penn State, I think are a little more prominent and dangerous than what Notre Dame has. But they're 2 teams that, at least in terms of yards allowed, they're ranked like 5th and 6th in the country defensively in terms of yards allowed. So I think it's 2 teams that match up pretty well against each other.
Dude, I was so impressed with Notre Dame last week. I was telling David Glenn and Chris Lee on yesterday's show, the sequence they had against Georgia in the 4th quarter when they came out to punt, and and I was telling DG, it was like, it looked weird to begin with for me because they kind of ran out like 30-40 style, like all kind of formation together, like in a group. So it stood out to begin with. I was like, what are they doing? And I was like, maybe that's just a Notre Dame thing. And then they waited till about 15 seconds on the play clock. Everybody runs off. The offense comes back on. Yeah. Georgia gets caught off guard. Yeah. And at that point, it's a matter of, can we get Georgia to jump off sides? And that's literally what Georgia did because they just weren't ready for what was going on. And that was really all Notre Dame was trying to do. They get them to jump off sides. They get a first down deep in their own territory. They end up running out the clock basically, and Georgia's sitting at home. And I was just like, wow, I know you've called a lot of high school college games and stuff. I've never seen that before. I've never seen that sequence before in any level of football that I've ever covered. I've never seen a team do that and execute it the way they did it. It was so crisp, and I was just like, man, that's really good stuff.
It was definitely something that they had planned on using. That's for sure. There hasn't been a lot of times in the last few years where you can really say that Kirby Smart got outcoached, but Kirby Smart got outcoached. Marcus Norman outcoached him. The puzzling decision to to even try to throw the ball at the end of the first half. They end up fumbling, and Notre Dame goes up by 10. Then they return the opening. I mean, the game's over at that point. There was so much momentum that it swung in that 30-second window.
Yeah.
Playing with a backup quarterback, I don't know why you don't take down 6-3 going into the halftime locker room, but it is what it is. Marcus Freeman outcoached him.
Yeah, and so now you got a situation where you will have at least one African-American head coach in the national championship game as Freeman will take on Penn State and James Franklin. So you have two African-American head coaches on one side of the bracket. Then you got the 8-seed Ohio State Buckeyes, who might be the best team in the country, taking on Texas on the other side. And that seems – it's one of those years where it seems like that's the national championship because whoever comes out the other side, you're not sure about. Although I'm actually kind of rooting for Notre Dame at this point. They kind of convinced me in that Georgia game.
I think Ohio State's the national champion. I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
But if Texas found a way to upset them, I think Notre Dame or Penn State, whoever wins that game, would be very much in play. Mainly because Steve Sarkisian has not been great in big games. I know he's gotten them to this point, but some of that a little bit in spite of some of his coaching decisions. He kept Arizona State in that game. Like I know we all want to give Arizona State credit, but if they don't throw the ball on 2nd and 4 with 6 minutes to play when they're up by double digits and throw an interception, we're not having the conversation. So
True. Yeah.
they had a 4th and 13 miracle play to win the game, essentially in overtime in that game. So I just haven't been super impressed with Texas. I have a lot of respect for their defense. Quinn Ewers is so hot and cold that there's no way you're going to convince me to back Quinn Ewers going into this game against Ohio State.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see an Arch Manning appearance for all this is said and done. But all right, let's get into it. So you got games starting, was it Friday? No, tomorrow.
Thursday.
Orange Bowl. Notre Dame, Penn State. Notre Dame's the 7th seed. Penn State's the 6th seed. Marcus Freeman might be one of the best coaches in the country. He's got the NFL kind of sniffing around at this point. Notre Dame has won 12 games in a row. We kind of wrote them off after week 1 when they lost that first game. Who was it? Was it Northern Illinois?
Week 2.
Week 2. Who did they lose to?
Northern Illinois.
Northern Illinois. And then from that point on, all they've done is just basically beat the brakes off everybody by double digits. And they kind of under the radar. It's weird.
It might have been the best thing to ever happen to them because it knocked them so far off the radar that nobody was really, the pressure was kind of off.
And it's crazy, too, because we sit here in ACC country and we kind of root for them, but we kind of root for them not to succeed too much because if they do too much, it's like, well, then you really don't need the ACC. Like, that's kind of our whole thing. Like, they don't need the ACC. Like, they're literally in the college football semifinals.
I also think with something else that we're going to see going forward is this seeding we saw this year.
Yeah.
This is maybe 2 years max. They're going to change the seeding.
I think we're going to
see. I think we're going to see where they actually base it on the ranking.
Either that or because you can't go back. You can't go to like an 18 playoff.
They should go to an 18 playoff, but that
would have worked out the best. Yeah,
I agree.
Because it feels like the 4 that got the buys got the worst end of it because they didn't play the week before because all of them are out. Like all of them are gone. So
so some of them just got some tough draws. Like Oregon getting Ohio State was the worst thing that could have happened.
Yeah, my man Stu's still mad about that. Like I didn't even bring it up to him this week. I was like, I'm not even gonna talk about it because he knew going into it. He was like,
don't tell Stu I said this either. But Ohio State should have won the first game.
I think deep down in their hearts, they kind of feel that way now after that game from last week.
If Will Howard slides 3 seconds earlier, they win the game. But that was the worst thing that could have happened was them getting Ohio State. Georgia just got a tough break with the Carson Beck injury. But even then, still not sure that, Notre Dame wouldn't have beat them. Some of it was just tough draws. I mean, some of it's it's also the thing with like Boise State getting a bye. Like,
right. Yeah. What?
Same thing with Arizona. Same thing with Arizona State to an extent. Now, give Arizona State credit; they were competitive.
Yeah, I was gonna say they at least actually showed up, so I wasn't too mad about them getting it. They actually proved that hey, we're the Big 12 champ, we deserve this, blah blah blah. But yeah, the Boise State one, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this actually makes sense.
My question with that would be if we went back and reseeded and you put Arizona State at the 12, the way where they actually were ranked. That's where they actually were ranked in the rankings. They would have played Texas anyway.
Yeah, that's worse.
Again. So
It's the buys. The buys for me.
So,
the buys are what's screwing it up for me because it's like
I agree.
you almost got to. You either have to say, okay, these 4 conferences get the buys and just be like, whatever comes from that is fine. Or you got to do, like you said, do it off of the actual rankings and go from there. But even then, you're going to have situations like this year where you're going to have some teams ranked higher that maybe should not be in those seats. I don't know. It's really hard. They should have just said 8 teams. 8 teams would have kind of cleared this. And now the only thing you can do is go to 16 pretty much to kind of make it with no buys or whatever.
And the thing that was so puzzling to me about why they did 12, like when they announced 12, was we've never had a year where we even needed an 8-team playoff. If we're being honest.
Yeah.
We've had some years where we needed a 16 playoff.
Yep.
We've had about 3 years of that. But it was kind of puzzling when they went to 12.
Yeah, never 12. Like there's never been like 12 national contenders. And it's gonna be crazy because the 8 seed's probably gonna win this whole thing. So let's get into it. Notre Dame, Penn State. Notre Dame, great defense. Penn State's probably got the best running game in the playoffs. They're more than 200 yards per game. Give me your prediction on this, and your what bet are you looking at for this game?
So a couple, really, I guess 3 bets. One kind of ties into both games, but the first one will be the under. Like I touched on, how good both these defenses are. One's 5th in total defense. One is 6th in total defense. They both kind of like to ground and pound. They're not necessarily the fastest tempo team. So I took it at under 46.5. That was kind of what it opened at. It's still at under 45.5, which I would still take.
I don't think I'll move much off of that. Yeah.
I would still take it at this point. I mean, I think it's a 23, 20, 24, 21 type of ball game. I don't think either team necessarily is going to run away from the other. Another one I like in this game is the Riley Leonard rushing prop. On ESPN Bet, when I last saw it, when I took it, it was over 44.5. I think some books maybe have it 47.5. I'd take either number. If you saw, they ran him 14 times against Georgia. That was, and that was kind of telling. They ran him a lot in the second half when they needed to pick up big plays. And a lot of times when you have a quarterback that can run, that's kind of the equalizer in terms of, you get an advantage blocking wise. So I think Riley Leonard, his rushing yardage prop up to about 50 yards, I would probably take. Then the other bet that I would have on this one ties into the other game with Ohio State. It would be teasing Penn State up to plus 7.5 because, like I said, I think it's a 1-possession game. And then the Ohio State money line together in a parlay.
Y'all need to be writing this down. Get this money in your pocket here. Ryan Stone joining us here for Best Bets. College Football Playoff Edition. We're going to see if we can squeeze some NFL Wildcard weekend in there as well. Cotton Bowl, 8th seed Ohio State versus 5th seed Texas. A lot of the nation thinks this is the national championship game. I was not very impressed with Quinn Ewers in Texas against Arizona State, although a lot of that had to do with Arizona State and them just, rallying and playing a fantastic second half and making that probably the funnest game of last week, to be honest. Give me your bets for this one here, as you have 2 football blue bloods trying to get to the national championship and win it.
I like the Ohio State team total over 29.5. They have been, lighting it up the last 2 games. Ever since Chip Kelly had his massive brain fart that we're still trying to figure out against Michigan, where they literally decided to line up and try to run the ball over and over again against one of the best defensive lines in the country and never use the best receiving room in the country at all. He's been lighting it up, 41 and 42 points, I think, in the first 2 matchups. Now, Texas is a better defense, but I still think Ohio State's going to find a way to score points. They're just, so many weapons. Even if they take Jeremiah Smith away, who looks like the number 1 pick in the draft in a couple of years, they 2 future NFL running backs. Emeka Egbuka is maybe another first-round pick this year. Will Howard kind of gets overlooked a little bit in terms of his ability, and he's played pretty well in the last couple games. So I still think they'll find ways to score points. So I like their team total over 29.5. I had been betting the Jeremiah Smith props up to this point because I kind of thought he would break out, and he has in the first 2 games. Problem is, everybody else in the books have caught on to that, so it's kind of tough to get a little bit of any value on that. I will say I did find it on DraftKings You can parlay his receiving yards at 70+ receiving yards and him to score a touchdown. And I think it comes out somewhere around plus 140 or something like that. So that's probably worth a bet too.
Sorry, I smacked my microphone here by accident. Let's move over to the NFL. Wildcard weekend, Saturday, January the 11th. We got some good games, I believe, starting off at 4:30 p.m. on CBS and Paramount Plus. The 5 seed Los Angeles Chargers at number 4 Houston Texans. I think people understand now why I was on a I want Jim Harbaugh crusade for an entire year to get him to come to Charlotte and coach the Carolina Panthers. All he did was go to LA, fix the O-line, fix the D-line, win 11 games, get in the playoffs, no big deal.
With what people thought was no receivers, by the way.
Yeah, no receivers, according to the rest of the world. And all he did is just go in there and do what he does every single place he goes, which is just basically run the ball down your back and win football games and just stop the run. That's literally all they do whenever you have a Jim Harbaugh team. And I don't trust this Texans team. But they've lost a lot of offensive weapons due to injury this year.
They looked better in the first half on Sunday, I will say, against the Titans. But that's actually, we can start right there because that's my first bet. Chargers minus 2.5. The moment it went below 3, I jumped up minus 2.5. I think the Chargers go on the road and do what they do. I trust them defensively. I trust them running the ball. Justin Herbert has, I think, because he got off to a little bit of a slow start in terms of them throwing the ball, he kind of has gotten a little overlooked this year, where in years past he's been overrated at times. Maybe I think he's actually been overlooked this year and has had a really, really good year. So I like the Chargers in this spot, and I trust Jim Harbaugh.
Okay, I'm trying to run through them here so we can get everybody back from lunch here. 8 o'clock on Prime Video on Saturday. The 6 seed Pittsburgh Steelers at number 3 Baltimore Ravens. Our buddy JP Mundy is standing on a bridge someplace because the Steelers have lost 4 games in a row. If I'm not, they backed into the playoffs. Russell, I don't know what's going on. They can't really do much. Meanwhile, all Lamar Jackson did was secure a bag and go out and have a better season than his MVP season last year. I think he's going to win it again. What does he get? Like 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, something crazy like that?
I think Allen is actually still the betting favorite.
You think so? That should be a bet right there. Which one between Allen and Jackson?
The last time I checked, it's between those two guys.
Oof, it's going to be crazy if Jackson don't win it. You know what? And they might end up seeing each other before this is all said and done. It's supposed to be on the regular season.
That's the matchup.
Yeah,
is that both teams win? They play in the play.
They'll play each other. So, problem is the vote is for the regular season. So, you know, if they did let it go a little bit into January, that might actually help clear it up. But who you got in this match? It's at Baltimore. Most of the world is picking Baltimore here, but this is also the time of the calendar where Baltimore tends to do the opposite of what they're good at, and then they end up losing the game. So what do you got here, Steelers and Ravens?
So nothing specific really on the game right now. I do have a parlay of Ravens first half money line because I think they'll get off to a strong start, and I think they'll be leading at halftime. And then the Eagles full game money line. I was kind of waiting and checked right before I came on, actually, and did see that Jalen Hurts is practicing today. So I put that in right before coming on. So that's the Ravens first half money line and the Eagles full game money line parlayed together. 9.5, 10 points. Lamar, I know he played well against them a couple weeks ago, but this is the Steelers have kind of been a thorn in the Ravens side. So 9.5, 10. I don't really want to take anything that big in terms of the Ravens spread, but I do think they'll be leading at halftime. They tend to get off to strong starts, so do think they win the first half. So I have that parlayed with the Eagles full game money line.
Follow Ryan on X at Ryan Stone Sports. It's best bets with Ryan Stone here as we get through our Wednesday on the Desmond Johnson Show. Sunday, January the 12th, as we continue Wildcard weekend in the NFL. The 7th seed Denver Broncos, one of the hottest teams in the league, actually, at the number 2 Buffalo Bills. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff on Sunday on CBS and Paramount Plus. Give us your best bets for that matchup there.
It'll probably be I haven't looked at it yet. It'll probably be Josh Allen's rushing props. Something he's usually around 35 yards or something like that. I'll probably take him over in that game. 8.5's a little high. This is one of the better defenses in the league in Denver. I do think Buffalo wins the game. If you're looking to take Buffalo, I would probably tease them up to -2.5 parlayed with something else. But if I do take anything in this game, it's probably going to be on Josh Allen running the ball. That's been one of my kind of crutch bets this season. That's turned out pretty well for the most part. So if the game is close, like I think it could be, I think they'll put the ball in his hands essentially.
You just mentioned Jalen Hurts is practicing, still in concussion protocol, but if he's practicing, that's a good thing. I think he has to go through a practice and then see if there's recurring symptoms or whatever.
I saw they also waived one of the backups today too, so probably a sign that
he'll play.
That line suggests that he's going to play.
Yeah,
they would not be 4.5-point favorites if he wasn't going to play.
I was going to say that's the next game set 4:30 p.m. on Fox on Sunday. 7th seed Green Bay taking on the 2 seed Philadelphia Eagles. There's a lot of folks still upset with Philly for not letting Saquon Barkley go after that record last week, but again, the starters weren't out there, so it's just been him by himself. And
yeah, well, that's the other thing is it's not just him. Like if you're going to go for that record, you have to play the entire offense.
The whole offense has to play. I would think they would want to if you're that, especially the offensive line, because that's kind of their record too. So,
and then what happens if Lane Johnson tears his ACL
or something happens to Saquon, who's had injury history before? Because you brought him here not to do that. You brought him here to go to the Super Bowl. So
then everybody's calling them idiots for playing.
For trying. And so this is a lose-lose situation. And Saquon handled it great. He was like, I didn't come here to break Eric Dickerson's record. I came here to win a Super Bowl, which is the correct thing to say.
He's also one of 9 running backs with now a 2,000-yard season. So he's in the record book anyway.
It's like one of those things where it's like people get mad that LeBron James is being called the 2nd greatest basketball player of all time. It's like, that's not an insult. That's still a compliment. Like, you're in the 2,000-yard club, Saquon. You're still going to be mentioned with O.J. Simpson and Ollie. Well, maybe not O.J. That's probably a bad example, but you know what I'm talking about.
Well, in terms of the record books.
all them. You're not getting mentioned in the same way as O.J. for other things. Did you have a bet for that Eagles-Packers? Or
I just had that full game money line parlayed with the Ravens first half money line.
Gotcha. And then the night game on Sunday, the 6th seed Washington Commanders at number 3 Tampa Bay. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff on NBC, on Peacock, and on Universal. It looks like here. I think that's the Hispanic network, the NBC.
Oh, Universal, yeah.
Universal, yeah. Give me your best bet for that one.
I like the over. First of all, this is probably the best game in my opinion in terms of matchup. You got 2 offenses that are on fire, 2 defenses that Tampa's good against the run. They haven't been good against the pass. They've been banged up in the secondary pretty much the entire year. Baker Mayfield's been red hot. Jaden Daniels is going to be the rookie of the year. He's had a red hot season. They both have weapons. I see no reason why this isn't a high scoring game. I believe the total is at 50. I easily see this being a 30-27, 31-28 type of game. I think both teams are going to have to score points to win this game.
Yeah, I feel like the Commanders are like a year early in terms of success with Daniels, but I like what they're doing.
Also, by the way, these teams played week 1, and the 57 points were scored in that game. So,
yeah, Tampa can score. And you're welcome for Baker Mayfield. I know we didn't hand him to you. He went to LA first and then went over there, but I'm just watching Baker Mayfield in Tampa, Sam Darnold in Minnesota, and I'm just like, all of them were in the same room in Charlotte 2 years ago. Like, how did we send all of these quarterbacks away? Like, that's neither here or there. But I think
coaching, I guess, was the
yeah. It was a lot of turmoil. We finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think in Charlotte, I think we're finally gonna okay. We're finally coming out of this mist, and it's not just going into an off season where we're like, what the hell are we doing? This is the first off season in 6 years where I haven't said that at the end of the year. What the hell are we doing? I feel pretty good. Monday, January 13th ends Wildcard weekend. It's the Monday Night Football game on ESPN, ABC, ESPN Plus, ESPN Deportes, Manningcast, ESPN2, ESPN. It's all over the place. The 5 seed Minnesota Vikings taking on the 4 seed Los Angeles Rams. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff. This, to me, is the most intriguing game out of the entire weekend because you have a 14-win Minnesota Viking team having to go across the country to take on the one team that beat them this year that's not named the Detroit Lions. They're literally Minnesota's 14-1 when you don't play the Lions. The one team they lost to was the Los Angeles Rams. So it's all all right, the Rams have the offense that can kind of go back and forth with the Vikings defense, which is vaunted. Matthew Stafford's playing well. Williams, the running back's playing well. Cooper Kupp, they've got an offense. They got one of the better offenses in the league. Give me your best bet for this one, because to me, that's kind of the one I'm kind of looking at like, yeah, this one might be a good one here.
So that one actually, that's an interesting one. It opened Minnesota -2.5. It's been bet down all the way to 1, which means most of the money is coming in on the Rams. To me, it's hard to bet this one because which Sam Darnold shows up? Do we see the Sam Darnold that we saw on Sunday night that looked terrible? He looked terrible.
Yeah,
that was Carolina Panthers, New York Jets, Sam Darnold seeing ghosts.
Throwing the 12-foot tall wide receivers, apparently.
He looked awful. Part of me thinks he'll bounce back to an extent. I don't know if it's enough that they're going to win the game. This is not an easy spot. It's a Rams team that's got experienced guys like Matt Stafford on it. I haven't put anything on this game yet. If I was to put anything on this game, it would probably be the over. I kind of think similar to the Sunday night game. And this one's 47.5, but I kind of think similar to the Sunday night game that, you're probably the winner of this game probably is going to have to score about 27 points, I would think.
And I could see, I could actually see, normally I wouldn't say I could see a team scoring that on Minnesota with their defense, but I could see the Rams doing that. Yeah. Like the Rams are that team where they can just get hot and drop like 40 on you. And you're just like, oh, what happened? But, that one's interesting too, but that one's a little bit further away. That's almost a week from now. So we'll see about that one. Before I get you out of here, friend of the program, John JP Mundy, asking the question, Ryan, what are your thoughts on betting on whether or not Belichick takes the Raiders job?
I just saw a tweet right before I came on that said he owes UNC $10 million
if he leaves.
If he leaves before June 1st.
Oh, they're not stupid. They're not. So, yeah, you're not gonna do the old razzle dazzle on us, Bill. You're not going to use us in the NFL job. No.
I don't think Bill Belichick wants to pay anybody $10 million. So I would stay away from. I would stay away from that one. If anything, my bet would be like Dallas, and like Jerry says, I'll pay the $10 million for you. That'd be about it.
I can't see him going to Dallas because, first of all, I can't see him going anywhere. JP, he's going to be the Carolina coach next year. I have no idea how it's going to work out, but he ain't going anywhere. Like that's the only bet, by the way, future bet that you can currently take on college football next season. I believe. Carolina
is UNC's win total like 7.5? I'd be inclined to take that over probably, but I would like to see what he does with the rest of the transfer portal and stuff.
All I've seen the past 2 days on my social media is just Bill Belichick in this blue blazer smiling beside some high school kid in some locker room randomly in North Carolina.
He was right down the road the other day. He was in Lexington the other day.
He's a barbecue. Bill ain't going nowhere, man. Bill is 72 years old. He ain't trying to go to deal with Jerry Jones in Dallas.
Bill is a full-on North Carolina resident now.
Yeah,
he knew where he needed to go.
Isn't his girlfriend like 22 or something like that? Something crazy. She's in college.
I think 24.
Something. Oh, 24. Yeah. So she's. Yeah. So Bill's living.
She might be the new. I think she was a college cheerleader. I believe she might be the new. She might be the new cheerleading coach at UNC for all we know. This move could be about her.
So Bill's living his best life. I don't expect him back in the NFL. I actually think this is going to work. I think that what they're doing at Carolina is going to be the prototype going forward in terms of dealing with salary cap and budgets and NIL and everything else.
I also wonder, I mean, he's not going to be the defensive coordinator, but since Gerard Mayo got fired, I kind of wonder if Gerard Mayo is going to find his way onto UNC's coaching staff.
I thought that was foul, too, how they did Gerard Mayo in New England. Like, one season.
I have a theory on that one. I think that was a favor to Belichick, and they were looking for an excuse to find their own coach.
I could see Mike Vrabel getting an interview up there. That would make sense.
I think so. I would think so.
And they've got a quarterback in Drake May to build with. So I don't know. We'll see. It never hurts my soul to see New England like floundering. So that makes me feel good. So if you need to make some money. Well,
the quarterback's a UNC guy. You should be rooting.
And Bill Belichick's at Carolina. So it's like it's all kind of doing like this now. So follow Ryan on Twitter /X at Rhinestone Sports. Best bets with Ryan Stone. I don't know how we're going to handle basketball. Maybe we'll try to do weekend stuff for Saturday games or something going forward, but we'll figure that out. We are off the rest of the week due to the winter storm coming through. We will see you next Tuesday. Jalen Gilkey will be in with me from WFMY News 2. We'll see you then. Have a great rest of your week.